So today we're going to talk about, is it time to buy a new build right now? There are some really good deals. And with the announcements of the GST, HST rebate, who knows, maybe now is a good time to do that if that's what you were thinking of doing. However, there are some things that you need to watch out for. So we're going to discuss that. And we've all been looking at, going out to visit some builders and see what's available for our clients. So let's jump into whether or not this is a good idea. And also, what are the things that you do need to watch out for here? So, hi, ladies.
Hello.
Good morning. So, I guess maybe we start off with talking a little bit about what it is that we are talking about specifically, which is the new GST HST new housing rebate that was announced earlier this year, and what that rebate basically entails. And so, it's offering a rebate for new bills up to $130,000 in rebates for both GST and HST. And of course, there's always the fine print that goes along with that. So the 130,000 is on a purchase price of about $1 million, and from $1 million and over, it's decreased, and $1 million and under, obviously, it's decreased because you're paying less GST and HST. So the marker is $1 million. The maximum amount would be 130,000 combined GST and HST. And in addition to that, there's some other things that you have to qualify for. So you have to have an agreement that's signed between April the 1st of 2026 to March the 31st of 2027. Construction on the new property needs to be started by at least December 31st, 28, and completed no later than December 31st, 2031. And that's just part of the conditions. But I guess the other thing to mention is that it is not all finalized. And so this is where we're seeing a lot of potential issues coming up with exactly how is this rebate going to be applied? How does it affect buyers, right?
I think it's important that we understand just one of the things that you were saying there, Evelyn, is that first of all, it's temporary. And secondly, there are a lot of time frames in it that you have to adhere to. So it's just not let's go out and buy a new house. There are things in there that have to fall within certain time frames, and you have to know that it's a temporary 1 year measure.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it has been stalled, but I think what we should talk about is what are the things that you need to look out for if you're buying something brand new, because there really are some good opportunities out there. It's just what's everything else that goes along with it that you want to make sure that you're not getting yourself into a situation you're not aware of, right? And there's a number of them, right? One is just basically if it's a new condo and you're buying an assignment, then this probably won't qualify because you have to go by the date of when the first buyer bought it if it's an assignment, which is a whole other podcast at some point. But just know that if it's an assignment sale that you're buying, you probably don't qualify for this rebate.
And I think there's a lot of good in it because I do think that it's there and it will help the builders and it will help the buyers be able to purchase things that maybe they couldn't purchase before. It's going to have an effect on the pricing with the builders, hopefully. And I think that, that a lot of people just like to buy new. So it's a good opportunity for you to go out if you right now and have a look at what's there. Evelyn and I were yesterday at a builder that had like 6 or 7 new projects that are going to come on the market. And that's great because we may not have had all those projects coming on the market had this not come into effect. Well, into fruition. We're still waiting for it to be enacted. But, there is opportunity here.
Yeah. And I've been out to some condos, and from what I understand, they are picking up. I've been at some that at really good locations that are sold out now. And when I was talking to our mortgage broker this morning, she said that her business has picked up quite a bit, and a lot of it is pre-construction. So I think that market is starting to turn around a little bit for sure, which I think is good. So it's just there are some things to watch out for, right? Like the dates, like you said, and the timing of it. The other thing that I found out this morning is that, and we just talked about this, everybody's doing it differently. There's no set rules on how these rebates are going to be applied. And for financing purposes, you have to, the some builders are taking the rebates off the top, and some are doing them as a rebate on closing. And so you're qualifying at the higher amount and getting the rebate on closing, but that means you have to qualify for a higher amount and a higher stress test. And sometimes what they've seen is that the mortgage has to be redone at the last minute because you've originally qualified for one amount and now it's a totally different price. So it delays things. So you have to be careful about that.
Right. And that is an important thing to take note, the qualifying at the higher amount. So I think a lot of people are saying, well, I'm going to maybe jump into the new home market because now I can get that new home at potentially up to 130,000 less. But if they are, in terms of the builder, charging you the full amount and saying on closing you're going to be rebated, then you may not qualify for what you thought you were going to qualify for, because you're not qualifying for 130 less, you're having to qualify for the 130 more plus the stress test, right? It is important to figure out what that particular builder is doing. And also, you're absolutely right. If you are qualifying on that higher amount and then come closing, you're being rebated the 130, the banks aren't going to give you that extra 130 that you can, go on holidays or something. Now the purchase price is 130 less. So you're right, that does cause issues at closing. And as we were talking earlier, the banks are going to need to know that well before the day of closing, right? So maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, so what she had explained is if this is what you're doing, make sure that your lender has the adjustments, the statement of adjustments very early in the process, because if they know what the adjustments are, they can do the qualification correctly so that it'll close on time. So I think one thing, this is a little, maybe a little off topic, but I think with the building that we went to see yesterday, that building is already registered. So I think even though there are some issues with how this is all playing out, there are some really good opportunities. Like, this building is completely done, it's brand new, but it's already registered. So you're not paying the occupancy fee that you would normally, and you can buy with 5% down as opposed to 20% down. Because if you're buying from a builder and it's years out, you have to do 20% down. But in this case, you just get traditional financing. You can do it with 5% down and close. So I think really there are some great opportunities right now for this. I just think you need to just do your due diligence and make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed.
Right. And we know with new condos that there is a 10-day cooling off period, but with freeholds, there is not. So it's important that you put in conditions in your agreement of purchase and sale with the builder, such as condition on financing, even if you're buying all cash. If you're downsizing, you're buying all cash or whatever, you need to make sure that you have that condition in so you can maybe have some time to figure that out, and a condition for your lawyer's approval, just so that he can or she can try and figure out how the builder is applying that credit, whether it's up front that you're going to need those funds or not.
I think that I think it might sound like we're sort of skating around it here, but that it is because the legislation hasn't been passed. So we don't know exactly when it's going to come in, like the legislation is going to come, and we don't know exactly how everybody's going to use it. So I think you have to remember three things here. One, that the legislation hasn't passed, and it looks like it's going to pass. And Doug Ford has assured all the builders, I think, that it is going to pass, but it hasn't passed yet. And the second thing you have to remember is that right now, because there is no sort of standard way to do it, all the builders are doing it differently. So you must know what that means to you as far as your net money is, so that you know actually how much the house is really costing you. And you also have to make sure that you're putting, just as you said, Evelyn, the conditions in there for your financing and for your lawyer review. So the lawyer and the finance people can get together and have a look at it, so you know exactly what it's costing you, and and you have a good idea. So there's no surprises on closing.
I think the other thing is the fact that everybody's applying it differently means that if you are out shopping, make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because you may have one builder who is advertising the price with the HST, and that's going to come off as a rebate, or they've already factored that in. So you may say two different prices that look like they're very different, but they're not. So just make sure if you're looking at that, is this price with or without that discount already?
That's an important thing. The builder that Ruth and I went to see yesterday was discounting the HST up front, but I did have another buyer who went with the builder and it was not being discounted up front. It was being discounted on closing. And in that case, they also had to qualify for the full amount because that's what was written on the agreement of purchase and sale, plus the stress test.
I wonder what would happen though if I think all indications are that this will pass, but what would happen if it doesn't pass? What would happen if people have bought houses and then it doesn't pass, or a portion of it doesn't pass?
Well, that's a good question. For the builders who've taken it off up front, that would be great. Unless they've got something in the fine print that says if it doesn't pass, then I would think that builders pretty much cover themselves quite stringently. I'm sure there's something in there in regards to that. I mean,
So that's probably a good question to ask your lawyer. Like, what happens if this doesn't pass? Am I protected? Can I walk away from this deal?
and I think there was some mention of that yesterday when we were at that builder preview, was there not? I thought they mentioned something about in case it doesn't.
There was a clause in there in case it didn't. Yes, I just can't see a builder not taking that into account because it's one of the indefinite things, and we know with dealing with contracts all the time as we do every day that what the contract says is what's important, not what might be happening in the future.
Yeah. And I think that's also why, yeah, and I think that's why we're seeing the builders applying it differently. And perhaps when all of this does pass, they may say, this is how it's got to work, right? Rather than letting the builders decide for themselves. Well, but it's all hearsay until it actually gets passed, right?
I wonder if they will. I wonder if they will have a set way. I don't, in my opinion, I don't think they will. I think it's just you apply it however you apply it. But I don't know. I'm just guessing on that one.
Well, I think it's fairly standard for the 24,000 that you get right now as the legacy part, right? Like the everybody was, if you were a first time buyer, or no, you or if you were buying a sorry, not you didn't need to be a first time buyer. If you're buying a new home and you got your 24,000 off the HST on the 24,000. You weren't paying that. And that's, it's like there's three stages. There's the part that just came originally for the 24,000. Then there's the part that came for new first time buyers to buy. And now everybody's able to buy, and they're all at different stages and different timelines. And that's one of the reasons at the beginning I said your timeline is what's important, and when it passed and does it fall into all the categories. So I I think that the most important advice we can give to the people out there is yes, for sure it looks like there's some great buys to be had out there, and if you especially if you're a person that wants to buy something brand new and have it, pick your own colors in that, but you have to make sure that it's conditional on you taking it to a lawyer and looking at it and making sure everything suits you.
No, I was just going to say, I think there are some great deals out there. Like some of them that I've seen, I think are great deals. I think this is fantastic for first time buyers or somebody who's who has wanted to buy a new property. I think there's some really, really good opportunities out there. You have to do your homework like always.
Right. And I think also going to a new builder, you can also work with a realtor, special promotions on the new bills. And also, we can help kind of navigate the process of going through the offer with the new bills, and obviously in collaboration with your lawyer. But there's sometimes depending on how the builder structures their agreements, there's ways that you can negotiate. They don't usually negotiate on the price, but you can negotiate on other things. And so sometimes that's when your realtor can help you with that portion of it as well.
I've actually seen a lot of them now that are negotiating on price. The one that we went to see yesterday, they made it very clear that they would negotiate. And even if that meant negotiating on the parking spot, adding a parking spot or adding a locker. So I think there are some opportunities now. And I think traditionally they didn't negotiate price I understand why, but I think now there's a lot more opportunity. And I think, I mean, I may be a little bit biased, but I think it's always good to have your own representation and bring an agent with you. because can just spot different things, that just different red flags that you need to look out for. And obviously, if you're walking into a builder, that builder is trying to sell that project. So if there's something better down the road, you would never know. And in our, like, we go out and look at these things all the time, so we would know, where can you get better, where is maybe a better fit for you, because the builder's also not looking at your particular situation, which is what we do, right? We do a really good job of figuring out what exactly do you need and helping you find that, where the builder's not doing that. They're not looking out for your best interests. So I think there's, it's a great opportunity for us to help people with new builds, for sure.
Right. And I think also it's important to note that the representatives for the builder who are selling those properties, for the most part, are not registered real estate salespeople. So they aren't under the same constraints and rules and ethics and things that we are. So as an example, I was with a buyer who was purchasing a new build, and we were asking some questions, and it was basically, they said off the cuff what it was. And after doing some negotiation, I said, at the end of this road, there's going to be a new development for condos, like high-rise condos, and this was a detached property they were buying. And she's like, well, I haven't heard of that. I don't know of anything like that. And I'm thinking, well, how can you not? I said, there's a sign at the end of the road with an official plan amendment right there, and you're not aware of anything? Like, you have no idea who that? Oh, well, it's not our builder, we don't know.
I think you're right. I think we need to really think about when you go into office, when you go into a builder's office, that those people work for the builder. They don't work for you, right? And if you have a real estate agent there that's with you, they work for you. So they're there to show you maybe 4 or 5 different places that you can go and buy something similar, and maybe one location suits you better than the other, and you may not know about them. And imagine if you didn't want a condo down the street and then you bought that, and once it's built, you can't take it back, right?
Or even this one always gets me is, like, even looking at a site plan, right? Like, what does it mean when you look at a site plan? Because I've seen so many people who've bought from a site plan, and they pay a premium for this lot because this lot is wider or deeper. And then they move in and they find out that it's wider and deeper because it's right beside a main road, or it backs onto something. And so the builder, I don't want to, not to disparage anybody, but the builder had to make that lot wider to get approval to build there. And now you're paying extra for it, even though now you're siding on a busy street and you had no idea that you'd be siding on a busy street. So these are just small things that you wouldn't be able to figure out from looking at a site plan, or even looking at, it's very hard to buy a property from plans, like to look at plans and be able to tell, like, is this a usable room? Like, what does this room that's 8 by 8 mean? What does that mean to me? Like, you know? So a lot of those things we would have more experience with. So not to toot our own horns, but I really do think it's important.
Sandy, answer your own question. What does 8 by 8 mean?
Yeah, that's a small room. 8 by 8 is a small room. Like, you're not putting much in that room.
Small.
By eight includes closet space too, right?
Where's the closet, where's the door, and where's the window? Because an 8 by 8 room with a closet, a door, and a window all in the middle of a different wall means, guess what? You have one wall to work with. So there's a lot of different things like that, I think, to look out for. Not that we know everything, but they're just little things that, because so many people buy off plans and then go, oh, I had no idea. I had no idea this is what it would look like. So I think it's good to have a second set of eyes on it.
Yeah, I think there that what it, we don't take into consideration that a lot of people don't read the plans the same way we do. And the first thing you look at is, how can you place the furniture in this room? And if that, sometimes that's not, it doesn't sit very nicely because of the way everything else is positioned.
Or what's coming on down the street. It actually drives my husband crazy, because I always say, well, when you go to sell, and he goes, or so, I can't help but look at it that way. Like, I just can't, right?
Absolutely. Because you know what? If you're selling in a down market, it makes a difference, right? Like, there are things that people did not look at when they were buying in these fast markets. And now when you're selling in a down market, they make a difference, right? So it is important always to look at resale because you don't know what's going to happen if you want to sell this property down the road. So that kind of stuff is important.
Yeah, and I don't even think it matters whether it's a down market or an up market. It's if there's two houses and they're the exact same house with the exact same finishes, and one is like, let's talk about the location part of it, backing on a busy road, and the other one isn't. We know that one's going to sell for more than the other. So why would you not take that into consideration? But that's just one portion of it. Like we said, layout is so important. The flow of the floor plan and all of that makes a huge difference in how the home feels. Yeah.
Even the square footage. Yeah, because people get caught up in square footage, and we all know you see houses that are 2,200 square feet, and a house that is 2,000 square feet or 1950, and the 1950, depending on the layout, can feel bigger. It could be a nicer layout than the 2,200 square feet. So you can't get caught up in that, right? When you got big foyers or big hallways and stuff that's taking up all your usable space, it does make a difference. So the square footage, while it's important, you also have to look at how the house is laid out.
No, look how excited we were.
So I think we've got totally off topic on where we were, but I think it's important.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day is that there is this new GST HST new housing rebate that's coming into effect. It does provide definitely some opportunities for those people who are looking to purchase new homes. And what we're just saying is to be careful when you enter into those agreements, find out how that rebate is being applied, make sure that you are protected by having conditions on financing and lawyers' review of those agreements. Be careful on closing that the statement of adjustments is delivered in a timely fashion so that the mortgage can have a time to look at that. And just when you're looking at selecting your house, take into consideration more than just the house and the floor plans and the price that's offered, because again, we said it could be looked at two different ways, and just know what you're getting into as always, right? Information is great, but you have to understand that information as well.
Yeah, information is your friend, but I'll say it again. I think there are some really great opportunities out there. And we've been going to see a lot of different builders and talking to them and seeing what they're doing. And there are some, I think, great opportunities for new builds right now. And all three of us are happy to help. Of course, we've been looking at different places and see where the best opportunities are. And I do think I think this is a good thing. Get the market going, get first time buyers in. It is a really good opportunity.